Hello, Blue Demons. Happy Monday afternoon. Thanks again for joining for our Get to Know DePaul series. This afternoon, we're joined by Chris from DePaul Central. Before we get started, though, as always, you have the opportunity to check into today's stream by scanning the QR code pictured here. In a minute, I'm also going to add the link to click in to the chat so you can also check in through that process. So by checking in, you have the opportunity to win one of our Lincoln Park MAP stainless steel water bottles. So be sure to scan that code or click that link and get registered. But we will go ahead and get started. So thanks so much for joining us today, Chris.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Courtney, and welcome everyone to DePaul.
Yeah.
I know that you guys are in your first week on campus, and hopefully after this session is done, you will know everything that you need to know to survive freshman year with regard to billing, payment, financial aid, etc.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm sure, obviously, this is a very critical part of our students' experience here. So for those of you that might be new to the stream, our Get to Know DePaul series is designed to be a deep dive of the different programs and services associated with your experience here at DePaul. So Chris, as we get started here, if you could start off by just telling us a little bit about you,
Sure.
Who are you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, where are you from, and why'd you come to DePaul?
So first of all, again, my name is Chris Rohn. I am the Associate Director of Financial Aid for New Student Programs and an Associate Director of DePaul Central, which is our one-stop shop for student services. I am a very proud DePaul alum. I did my doctorate in educational administration here, finishing in 2011. I'm not going to tell anyone when I actually started my coursework, but I am a native Chicagoan, Southside guy. Went away and did my undergrad and grad work in Washington, D.C. and started working in financial aid while I was getting my master's in public policy at George Washington University. And in August of 1998, which is definitely before any of you guys were born, I moved back from D.C. to Chicago to come to DePaul. One of the things that you all will notice during your interactions with faculty and staff at DePaul is that there's a very good portion of us who have been here for 15 years or more. Some people who've been here for 30 years or more. People are very, very engaged in the DePaul community. We fall in love with the environment and we stay. So that is kind of my individual backstory.
Yeah, that's great. You might be our most seniored person on the call or on the series so far.
So far.
Yeah, we've had Marty from Study Abroad's been here for 8 years. Yeah. Who else? I think Kim from Ohms has been here 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you might win the award so far.
Well, I'll have some help because I know you were going to have Amy Moncher next week. I was just on a call with her before this to do scholarships and Scholarship Connect. She was a student worker when I came to DePaul in August of '98, and she has only worked at DePaul, so she's at about 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Professional service.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Chris, for our viewers, how about you walk us through a little bit about what DePaul Central is and what students really need to know?
Sure, absolutely. DePaul Central, you guys have received communications under the banner of DePaul Central since you were admitted. DePaul Central is simply the physical location that houses our one-stop shop for student business services. So DePaul Central is the physical location that houses the Office of Financial Aid, the Office of Student Accounts. So in other words, the folks that you get help from and the people you owe your bill to, the student-facing piece of the Office of the University Registrar, which is really just to drop off immunization records candidly. You guys will learn if you ever need anything from the registrar's office, they are very, very responsive just by sending an email to UR support. You order your academic transcripts online. So if you need to get a transcript to apply for an internship, or, down at the end applying for grad school and jobs, you do all of that online. So there never really needs to be a face-to-face between a student and a full-time staff member of the registrar's office. It also houses the payment center where someone could come in and make an in-person payment, and financial fitness, which I'm going to talk about kind of at the end, is the second to the last slide, which is our national award-winning financial literacy program. So all of these different units have a presence within DePaul Central. There's a Loop campus location on the 9th floor of the DePaul Center, strategically located across from the elevator bay on 9, so you literally cannot get on the 9th floor without passing DePaul Central, and on the Lincoln Park campus in the Schmidt Academic Center, room 101. My apologies. Getting call on that. And our basic model is when in doubt, come to us first, right? Because naturally, taking academic advising out of the equation, DePaul Central is probably the place that 75 to 80% of students, if there's an issue, it's about some money they should have that's not there, or figuring out a plan to pay the balance after the financial aid has been dispersed. So it's never a bad thing as a new student, and I say this when we would do in-person orientation sessions, come to us first, because if it's not billing or aid related, we are candidly a very reliable line of referral to whichever office you need to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I think it's important for students to know too, outside of all of and this comes, I think, as a person who works in student involvement, outside of, there might be a couple offices that have credit card machines. DePaul Central is really the place that you go to for any and all payments. And I think students oftentimes forget where to go or how to find it. But DePaul Central, just like you described, Chris, it really is that one-stop shop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think you've got some information you want to share. Do you want to go ahead and?
Sure. So I don't want to make everyone's eyes glaze over with a PowerPoint. So I'm not going to go through this. Some of you may have seen this before because this was content that was available at the time you came to Premier, aimed at parents, mentors, scholarship sponsors to explain how billing and payment work. So I am not doing a proxy for my orientation presentation. There are just some slides in here that I would like to show folks, because what I think the content you all really need right now is to know what you need to do to make sure that all of your information can be shared to whomever it is that is helping you pay for this journey, be it an older sibling, parent, grandparent, again, scholarship, mentor, whomever. There are two different modalities to be able to share your account information. Internally, to share information in Campus Connect by going to the student homepage in Campus Connect, clicking on the profile tile from the homepage, and then share my information, which is about halfway down on the left side. It's going to take you to a screen that is what's called the FERPA disclaimer, to let you know that based on federal law, the difference between high school and college is this: everything about your college experience is addressed to you, meaning there's no bill that is going to be mailed home to your family. There's no report card that is going to be mailed home. Everything, your grades, your health records, your financial records, everything that is associated with what is called your college record is yours. And if you want anyone else to have access to it, you have to grant formal permission for this to happen. So the first screen is explaining your FERPA rights, and it's asking you to say, I understand. And then you would go to a screen that allows you to put anybody's name. There are about 19 different categories of relationship, including other, their name, their email address, and they are going to be sent an email that allows them to set an ID and password so they can go to Campus Connect and see different areas of information. So from this page, you identify the person, add their information, and then there are different areas of information that you can opt in to share. It's not an all or nothing situation where you say, yes, I want to share my information, and they have everything. You can pick and choose. So there's basic contact information on file, and emergency contact information. Your class schedule, which would allow proxy access to see your courses, the building location, when they are in person, the class time, the name of the professor. To see your financial aid award, which is merely an annual summary of your financial aid award and whether financial aid has dispersed or not. Access to, and this is the piece of information that I would strongly urge everyone to opt into, access to your task and to-do list, which in English means if there is certain documentation you haven't provided or anything that you need to do to meet compliance in an area, on your task list, it's going to show you exactly what that is that you need to submit and how you go about submitting it. And we have logically found that if your family are the primary drivers of paying stuff, they would like to have access to this information. And we're going to talk about student loans and promissory notes in a minute, which is the biggest pitfall for any entering freshman or transfer. So, and I saved the best for last, and that is student grades. Obviously, you guys don't have any, but you can opt into or choose not to opt into among these other areas of proxy access to have access to see your grades when you have some in at Thanksgiving. So all of that is handling, let's call it, the internal DePaul information. The second tile on the bottom of the slide is the student accounts tile. So this is so that you can grant access to someone to have access to your ePay, eBill functionality. This is how you either make a payment or enroll in our monthly payment plan, and also to have access to receive the bill. Because as I led with, we don't mail anything anymore. No schools mail anything. Everything is electronic. And we generate billing invoices once a month. And if you did absolutely nothing, that billing invoice is going to go to your email and no one else's. So you want to go to the student accounts tile, and from their menu, click on ePay, eBill, and then there's a menu on the right side of the screen that allows you to authorize a user. And it looks very much the way the Campus Connect process looks. You put someone's name, their relationship to you, their email address, and they will be sent an email with a link to establish a logon and ID. So that is authorizing their ability to go into your billing and payment portal to look at the bill, to make a payment, to enroll in the monthly payment plan. And in addition to authorizing a user, you guys want to make sure that you add any additional email addresses to your bill so that when we generate these invoices, they will be emailed to that person. And there's not a limit of one person. I believe you can have up to 3. So just from the get-go, if you have not done this, I again would strongly urge you to do both of them. And that's kind of it with that slide. You can advance to the next one. Thank you. Okay, so for people who are not interested in payment plans and are just paying the bill, you will see that the fall bill is due on this Friday. So if you are not paying with financial aid or you have a balance after financial aid, this is when the tuition due date would be for fall. Obviously, you guys are new. It's a chaotic environment. There are not going to be any immediate penalties if you do not meet the September 4th due date. But this is just to show you when charges are due for the 3 terms. And as you all are freshmen, you can kind of file this away because this is going to be the same schedule for 4 years. At DePaul, you will always register for the next term's courses in the 6th week of your current term. So you guys will register for your winter term the 2nd week of October. You will register for the spring the 2nd week of February, and you will register for the next fall the 2nd week of May. Sometimes it's the 1st week if spring break was a little early. So this is always going to be the case. And logically, seniors register before juniors, who register before sophomores, who register before freshmen. But it is going to be that same schedule for all 4 years. And the first bullet is definitely something that is aimed at parents, because parents will frequently come to orientation and say, well, why haven't I seen a bill yet? And my response is, it is because your student has not registered for classes. If your student registers for courses at 2 o'clock, you will see charges at 2 o'clock and 30 seconds. In other words, it is the act of registration for courses that triggers tuition charges. You don't have tuition charges until you have registered for courses. Next slide. Okay, this was just a sub slide from after accessing the student accounts tile. And so you've gone to the student accounts tile and you have accessed ePay eBill. I talked about the authorized user functionality. The other thing that you can do, or your parent can do from inside the portal, is to enroll in a monthly payment plan. DePaul has 6, 10, and 12-month payment plans. The 12-month payment plan actually began in June, and the 10-month began in August, and the payment date is the 26th of the month. So if you had some conversation with your parents and you know that they were interested in enrolling in the 10-month payment plan, the first payment was taken on the 26th, but you can still enroll and get 10 months. I believe it is through September 11th. It's just that when you enroll, there's an $80 fee for the payment plan. That's the only fee. Obviously, there's no monthly interest or carrying charges or anything like that. So since you are past the first payment draw, when you enroll, it will take the first payment. So you would be paying an $80 enrollment fee. And if your family has calculated that your out of pocket to us is $10,000, and you've decided you want to do monthly payments, I mean, the basic cost benefit analysis in that is, if it is a $10,000 balance, if you did nothing special, we have 3 terms. So you would owe $33.33, September 4th, December 4th, and March 15th, or you pay an $80 fee, enroll in the 10-month payment plan, and pay $1,000 a month, August 26th of 20 through May 26th of 21. So in that example, I'm usually having this conversation with a parent. I would say it is paying 1,010 times sufficiently less painful than paying $33.33 3 times to make it worth paying an $80 fee to enroll in the plan. So you all have slightly less than 2 weeks to do this if this is the decision. And again, it's just at the point of enrollment, you would, whatever you have figured out is your annual budget. So for, in my example, the 10,000, you're just enrolling and paying, in that example, 1,080. And then your second payment would be September 26th, and it would be the 26th of each month through May of next year. So, and this is very easy to do. You're in the ePay eBill, and there's just a tab that says enroll in payment plan. And obviously the 12-month option is off the table. And the 6-month is candidly usually for mid-year transfers who start in January. And that's just taking your winter and your spring quarter balances and dividing them into 6 months, January through June. Oh, I'm sorry. So again, I apologize to you guys. The language of these slides is once again aimed at the parent audience. So it's, how can I help my student avoid problems? We'll talk about how you guys can help yourselves avoid problems. And that is, so when I was talking about how you can elect to grant this proxy access, so everybody kind of knows what's going on, I said I would strongly suggest that you grant access to the task the task list. So from the student homepage in Campus Connect, you have all of these squares, which we refer to as tiles. And I talked about the profile tile and the student accounts tile. So here are 2 more. Your task tile that you see in this slide says no current tasks. You guys can go, so this would be an exercise, log into Campus Connect and go to your task tile and view it right now. If you have 0 tasks, then you're doing very, very well, because someone completely outside any financial aid processes, all freshmen, when you go to college, you have to turn in proof of your updated immunization records, just as you had to do when you were freshmen in high school. So at this point, usually half of the freshman class has not sent in their immunization records. So you may have a task up there saying, we've yet to receive your immunization records. And in the information describing the task, it shows you what was called our secure document upload site, where you can send that electronically. The consequence of not having this done is very straightforward. You will not be allowed to register for your winter term classes if you do not have your completed immunization records in. And that is not DePaul being institutionally extra. That is for compliance with Illinois state law, and every state has this. This would happen to you in any jurisdiction in the country. You start college, you're obviously registering for classes at orientation, but you would not be allowed to advance to registration for your second term if this is not resolved. So that is an example of a universal task that has nothing to do with my world. As 80% of DePaul students receive some sort of financial aid and 70+% use their student loan eligibility, you would probably also have some financial aid related tasks. So I also have the financial aid tile under here, because while you would see kind of the generic information on the task list, if you go into the financial aid tile, there's a link to the message center. And when you go to the message center, it is a full explanation of whatever it is you need to do. So this is the most important thing that I have said so far. I'm sure the vast majority of folks listening are planning on using their student loan eligibility as part of the overall financing plan. Freshman student loan eligibility does not magically get converted into actual loans that are applied to charges. There are absolutely 3 steps that you must take and complete. Otherwise, your loan eligibility does not become a loan. It won't be applied to charges. You've calculated your balance, assuming the loans will pay, and you've paid everything else, and you'll have a block on your registration because your loans haven't paid. Every year, persistently, 30 to 40% of the freshmen have not done what they need to do to activate their loan eligibility by the time add drop is over, let alone the beginning of the school year. So the 3 steps. I'll take you back to your initial aid award. When you looked at it, any free money that you had was listed as offered and accepted. So DePaul Academic Merit Scholarships, DePaul Need-Based Grant, Illinois State MAP Grant, Federal Pell Grant. That's free money. Every school in the country puts it in the aid award as offered and accepted, because we know you all are not going to turn down free money. However, loans are obviously optional. So in your financial aid awards, your student loans were offered. If you have yet to accept them and it is your intention to use them, we have not communicated the 2 things that should be on your to-do list that you need to do, because we have no idea whether it is your intention to use your loans or not. So step 1 is having accepted your student loan eligibility. Once a student has accepted his or her loan eligibility, there are 2 processes that they need to complete that are called the first-time borrower processes. So for 90% of college going, that's freshman year. But if there's one person in the country who somehow made it all the way through undergrad and is a second-year med student just using their federal student loan eligibility, then they would have to do it. That is why it is called a first-time borrower process, not a freshman process. So what you all need to do is to complete both of your loan master promissory note signing and to complete entrance counseling. If you have accepted your loan eligibility and you have not done this, there are 2 items on your to-do list in the message center saying you've accepted your student loan eligibility. In order for this loan eligibility to be converted into a loan and applied to charges, you must go to this website, and there's a link to the website, studentaid.gov, And from the top menu on the studentaid.gov scene is very easy. There is an area that says complete aid process. And when you hover over that, it outlines about 10 or 12 different sub areas, and you will see complete entrance counseling, and you will see complete loan master promissory note, and it is divided into for undergraduates or for graduates. So you need to complete your loan master promissory note for undergraduates. Obviously, that takes 5 to 10 minutes to do. Very simple and straightforward. Entrance counseling is an online tutorial and quiz that orients students to the rules and regulations around student loan eligibility, and more importantly, the terminology. What is the difference between a subsidized and an unsubsidized loan? What is the difference between deferment and forbearance when you're out of school and in repayment? But the bigger piece here is if you haven't done those two things, your loans will not be applied to your charges. And obviously, we have been sending email on a 3-week, once every 3 weeks rotation since 8 awards were done that essentially says, look, we don't care whether you use your student loan eligibility or not. But know if it is your intention to use it, you need to accept it before we're going to communicate what you need to do. And conversely, if you know you're not going to use your loan eligibility, please decline your loans and we will stop communicating with you about loans. So those are some examples of tasks that have absolutely nothing to do with my area. Well, I mean, other than we collect the immunization information for the registrar's office if people choose to submit it in person, or some specific financial aid stuff. But that is why, if you are going to opt to use the Share My Information functionality, I would urge you to share the category of tasks and to-do lists. Next slide. Okay, so I spoke earlier about financial fitness, which is our financial literacy program at DePaul. Very, very good program. We have professional certified financial planner, and we have grad student and upperclassmen grade level undergrads who are student workers who have been through training for what we call peer financial counseling. And you can email them at financialfitness.depaul.edu and set up an appointment at any time. But they've got a lot of good online content at that website, you know, how you can go about building your credit score, your credit portfolio when you're an undergrad, and conversely, how you can ruin it by, I don't know, Courtney, maybe getting secret credit cards that your parents don't know about when you're an undergrad, which was a very big thing for those of us to do who were undergrad back in the dark ages of the 80s. A kind of logical referral point in terms of timeline is the majority of DePaul students do not live on campus for 2 years, let alone 4. So where financial fitness can really be a help is at the time you need to make a decision as to whether you're going to place yourself in the housing lottery for year 2, or whether you're going to transition from dorms winter and spring quarter of this year to an apartment next year, as the majority of DePaul students do. Financial fitness can help you construct a realistic budget for off-campus living, rent, utilities, food. They have rent maps by neighborhood in Chicago, so they can really be a good resource when you get your group of friends together and you're looking at an apartment or a house to move off campus. But that's just an example of the financial fitness functionality and when it kind of interfaces with freshman. And you can talk about study abroad with them, because study abroad is more expensive than regular tuition because they're room and board charges wherever you would be. You know, they can help identify programs, and they can help identify different resources if you're eventually gonna do study abroad. Next slide. And that is the end. And so you guys have no idea if that was long. I did what I delete for about 6 or 7 slides. So this is just a screenshot of the outside, or a picture of the outside of DePaul Central on LPC. which is very, very lonely and dark right now. But again, we have a Loop location, an LPC location. When we go back to full opening, our hours are 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But most, for you all, if you are confused by anything that I just said right now, I would suggest you call the counseling line. We have an integrated customer service call center that takes financial aid calls, it takes registrar's calls, and it takes student accounts calls. So the first level intake contact center agents kind of triage where your question should go, and they push it on to a tuition counselor or a financial aid counselor. If you're unsure about payment plans, loans, what's up with your aid, did you accept your loans or not, etc., you can always call 312-362-8610, again, from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And this time of year, there will be a wait, but we pride ourselves on, doing full diagnostics in a call. And if you had to wait on hold for 12 minutes to get one of my financial aid counselors, by the time you're off the phone, there will be no ambiguity about what it is you need to do in order to be done. So that's kind of it in terms of the boring canned content. I'm happy to answer any questions that may have come in.
Yeah, that's great, Chris. I think it's really important for students from the very first moment that they get to DePaul to really understand the finances associated with college.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to get in, but now you're in these real world situations where the decisions you're making today, can affect you long term, especially financially. So I think creating that relationship with folks in DePaul Central is really important, and they can be very, very helpful. Like you and your staff can be very, very helpful in answering questions, helping students make the decisions and really understand things. Because I think that's the other part that students need to be aware about. They, like you said, they are in the driver's seat of their finances now, and they are in the driver's seat of all of this. They're going to be the ones getting the bills and really have to start making those decisions for their financial future. You didn't have any questions come in yet, but you did have one shout out. So I'm not sure who Kin is here, but you got a good shout out. So good for folks to know that there's people out there that sing the praises of our DePaul Central staff.
Well, thank you very much for the shout out. This has been a long summer for us, and everyone understand there's a logical difference between coming to a private and a Catholic mission-oriented and vision-aligned institution versus being at some large public where it's like now serving number 32 in the office. Mm-hmm. Do not have any hesitation about reaching out to us. As I told you, many of us, and across student affairs, enrollment management, academic affairs, have worked here for a really long time. So I'm gonna set the bar high here for my colleagues, but it doesn't matter whether it is your Discover or Explore Chicago professor or staff mentor, your RA or your dorm director or anyone. You can speak to any DePaul staff, and if they don't know the answer to it, they're going to give you a credible referral to someone who has the answer to it. This is not a place that is very difficult to navigate in terms of being bounced around from one part of campus or from one campus to the other. Candidly, you guys just need to pay attention to your email. So I know there was supposed to be one takeaway. That's it. I understand, although I may be 52 years old, I understand that you guys view email like people my age view junk mail that you get in the mail, or like, say, spam calls on our cell phone. But email is the official communications platform of the university. So if you're getting an email from DePaul, and we send a lot of them, it may get exhausting, but you do not want to not open any DePaul email. It's as simple as that, because anything that could go wrong, it's not just something sitting out there that you need to do, and you have not received nudge communication saying, hey, this is our second email, you need to do this, that, or the other. So as long as you set up your proxy access, certainly for ePay, eBill, and to use the Share My Information functionality in Campus Connect to whatever extent you're comfortable with, and you read your email, you will not have administrative bureaucratic problems at DePaul. It's that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great for students to keep in mind. As we head towards the conclusion of our interview here today, is there any final, advice that you might have for new students to DePaul, or just, students perhaps that might be transferring in? And even if it's not, you've given a lot of great advice so far, even if it's not the formal advice, even if you have a favorite restaurant that students should check out, I'm sure they'd love to hear that too.
Well, I work at LPC rather than the Loop, so our within walking distance dining options are a little more limited, other than very, very expensive Lincoln Park restaurants a little further off campus. And I rarely go into the cafeteria. So I will say, so here's my best advice: be very frugal when you go to Whole Foods, because that being the closest grocery store to you, if that becomes your default shopping spot, needless to say, Whole Foods is a lot more expensive than your friendly neighborhood Jewel or Mariano's, which are a little further down the street. And just to say that you guys are transitioning to college in literally a once in a century event. And there is light, there will be light at the end of the tunnel. And just what you have navigated through second half of senior year while you were in the college selection process, prom, graduation, and now limited move-in in your matriculation to college, things will get better. And just the strength and determination you've shown to get to this point, that you are where you are, lets me know that you will do very well here in normal times.
Yeah.
I would just end with that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Chris, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Again, to our students watching, you can connect with DePaul Central through any of the outlets that are scrolling across the bottom of this screen. And just as a reminder for folks, our Get to Know DePaul series is part of our Welcome Week offerings this year. So we've got over 165 events taking place throughout the course of the next about 2 weeks still. So you can see that full offering list at welcomeweek.depaul.edu. So be sure to check it out. We've got a lot of great stuff upcoming. This weekend, we've got Ursula coming to do Lincoln Park ghost tours, to talk about the scarier side, if you will, of Lincoln Park in a virtual format. So you can find information on that and other events as well. Also, our next session is going to be tomorrow morning with the Dean of Students, Ellen Fingato. So she'll be joining us tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., streaming live from our Res Ed and Student Involvement Facebook pages. So if you didn't have a chance at the beginning, be sure to check into our stream by scanning the QR code here or clicking the link in the chat. But until tomorrow morning, stay safe, and we will talk to you soon, DePaul. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.